It was a humid Tuesday morning in the classroom of Mrs. Thompson at Maplewood Elementary in Charleston, South Carolina. 10-year-old Naomi Williams stood trembling with a mix of pride and nerves. The assignment was, "Who inspires you?" A chance to talk about someone special in their lives. Most kids had rehearsed stories about their dads coaching soccer or their grandmothers baking pies, but Naomi had something extraordinary to share. Something she'd carried like a glowing ember in her chest. She adjusted her braided ponytails, tied with vibrant purple ribbons, and smoothed her favorite constellation print dress, its stars shimmering faintly under the fluorescent lights. Her sneakers squeaked as she walked to the front of the room, clutching a slightly crumpled index card with her carefully written speech. "The person who inspires me," she began, her voice small but determined, "is my mom. She works at NASA, designing rockets that explore space." The room erupted into laughter, not the kind that fades quickly, but a rolling wave of scorn that crashed over Naomi like a storm. Tyler Reed, the class clown with a mess of sandy blonde hair, slammed his hand on his desk, howling, "NASA? Yeah, right. You're totally making that up." Sophia Martinez, who always wore glittery headbands and sat with her clique in the back, pointed at Naomi, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, so is your mom an astronaut now? Or maybe she just cleans the offices at NASA?" The taunt sparked another round of cackles. Soon, nearly every kid joined in. Ethan Carter mimicked a rocket launch, flopping dramatically in his chair while making exaggerated whoosh noises. Even quiet Lily Nguyen, who usually kept to herself, smirked behind her notebook. Naomi's heart pounded, her cheeks burning as if she'd been slapped. She gripped her index card so tightly it bent, but she pushed on, her voice shaking. "No, really? She's an aerospace engineer. She works on missions to Mars." That only fueled the fire. Tyler leaned forward, his face twisted in a sneer. "Liar. Nobody's mom works at NASA. You just want attention." Sophia tossed her hair, adding, "Yeah, Naomi, stop pretending you're special. It's embarrassing." The laughter grew louder, sharper, like shards of glass raining down. Kids whispered to each other, passing notes with doodles of Naomi labeled liar in bold marker. One note, scribbled by Ethan, showed a stick figure girl with a speech bubble saying, "My mom's on Pluto." It made its way across 3 desks, each kid snickering as they added to the mockery. Naomi's throat tightened, but she tried again, desperate to be heard. "I'm not lying. My mom's name is Dr. Maya Williams, and she's been at NASA for years. She showed me her lab and—" "Enough, Naomi." Mrs. Thompson's voice cut through the noise like a whip. The teacher, a stern woman with wire-rimmed glasses, perched on her nose, stood up from her desk, arms crossed tightly. Her tone was icy, each word deliberate. "This is a classroom, not a place for fairy tales. If you don't have a truthful story to share, you shouldn't waste our time. Lying is unacceptable, and I'm disappointed you'd make up something so outrageous." The words hit Naomi harder than the laughter. She froze, her breath catching, feeling the weight of her teacher's judgment like a boulder on her chest. Mrs. Thompson didn't even look at her, just gestured toward her seat. "Sit down and let's move on. Who's next?" Naomi wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. Instead, she shuffled back to her desk, her sneakers dragging on the linoleum. The laughter didn't stop. It followed her, low and venomous, as kids leaned over their desks to whisper. "She's such a faker," Tyler muttered loud enough for her to hear. Sophia drew a rocket on her notebook, crossed it out with a dramatic flourish, and held it up for her friends to see. Naomi sank into her chair, staring at the scratched surface of her desk, where someone had carved a lopsided star years ago. She traced it with her finger, trying to block out the noise, but it was everywhere. Mocking voices, stifled giggles, the squeak of Mrs. Thompson's marker. as she wrote on the board like nothing had happened. Naomi's index card lay crumpled in her lap. The words she'd practiced so carefully were now blurred by a single tear. She wiped it away quickly, refusing to let them see her break. She wasn't lying. She knew she wasn't. She could picture her mom's lab in her mind. Rows of computers humming, whiteboards covered in equations, and the model rocket her mom had let her touch, its metal cool under her fingers. She remembered the late nights when Dr. Maya Williams sat at their kitchen table, glasses sliding down her nose, explaining propulsion and orbits, while Naomi sipped hot chocolate. She'd even gone to a NASA open house last summer, where her mom had pointed to a massive engine and said, "That's one of mine." Those moments were real as the desk under her hands. But here in this classroom they felt like a dream no one else believed. The betrayal stung deepest from Mrs. Thompson. Naomi had always liked her teacher, had stayed after class to ask about planets, had trusted her to listen. Now that trust was shattered, replaced by a cold accusation that echoed in her head. Liar. The taunting didn't let up. During a group activity, Tyler accidentally knocked Naomi's pencil case to the floor, scattering her glittery pens while whispering, "Oops, didn't see the NASA girl there." Sophia and her friends made a game of it, asking Naomi fake questions in sugary voices. "So does your mom live on the moon yet? Does she fly to work in a spaceship?" Each jab was a fresh wound, and Naomi's silence only seemed to egg them on. Ethan drew another caricature, a cartoon Naomi with a dunce cap labeled liar, and slid it onto her desk when Mrs. Thompson wasn't looking. Naomi shoved it into her backpack, her hands trembling, wishing she could shove the whole morning away with it. She kept her head down, pretending to read, but the words swam on the page. She felt like she was shrinking. Her voice, her truth, her pride, all crumbling under the weight of their cruelty. Mrs. Thompson, oblivious or indifferent, carried on with the lesson, calling on other kids to share their stories. When Sophia talked about her dad's fishing boat, the class listened politely. No laughter, no interruptions. When Tyler bragged about his uncle's motorcycle, Mrs. Thompson nodded approvingly, saying, "That sounds exciting." The contrast burned. Naomi's story, her true story, had been torn apart while everyone else's sailed through unchallenged. She wanted to stand up and shout, "Why don't you believe me? Why am I the only one who's wrong?" But she stayed quiet, her courage buried under the fear of more ridicule. The clock above the board ticked painfully slow, each second stretching the humiliation longer. Then, without warning, the classroom door swung open with a force that rattled the hinges. Every head snapped toward the sound. A woman stood in the doorway, her presence commanding the room like a sudden eclipse. Dr. Maya Williams, Naomi's mother, was a vision in a sleek NASA flight suit, its deep blue fabric catching the light, adorned with mission patches, and her name embroidered in bold silver letters. Her braided hair was pulled back into a bun, revealing sharp cheekbones and eyes that burned with quiet fury. She carried a tablet under one arm and a small, intricately detailed rocket model in her hand, its fins gleaming like it was ready to launch. She wasn't supposed to be here. She'd been in Houston at Johnson Space Center for a meeting, but a last-minute schedule change had brought her back to Charleston, and she'd promised Naomi she'd try to stop by for her presentation. Now, seeing her daughter's hunched shoulders and the smug faces around her, she understood exactly what she'd walked into. Maya's gaze swept the room, locking onto Naomi first. Her daughter's eyes were glassy, her lips pressed tight to hold back tears, but there was still a spark of defiance there, a spark Maya knew well. Then she looked at the class, at the kids frozen mid-laugh, at Mrs. Thompson standing stiffly by the board. Her voice, when she spoke, was low but carried the weight of a thunderstorm. "What's going on here?" No one answered. Tyler sank lower in his seat. Sophia's glittery headband glinted as she nervously twisted a strand of hair. Maya set the rocket model on the teacher's desk with a deliberate thud, her eyes never leaving the room. I heard laughter when I walked up. I heard my daughter's name. Someone want to tell me why? Naomi stood up, her chair scraping loudly. Mom, she said, her voice cracking, I told them about you, about NASA, and they said I was lying. Her words tumbled out, raw and urgent. They laughed, and Mrs. Thompson said I made it up, that I shouldn't tell stories, but I didn't, Mom. I swear I didn't. Maya's face softened for a split second as she looked at her daughter. But when she turned back to the class, her expression was steel. Is that true? She asked, her voice slicing through the silence. Did you call my daughter a liar for telling the truth? No one dared speak. Mrs. Thompson cleared her throat, stepping forward, her hands twisting nervously. Dr. Williams, I misunderstood. I thought Naomi might be exaggerating, and Maya cut her off, her tone sharp enough to make the teacher flinch. You didn't ask her to explain. You didn't give her a chance. You assumed she was lying and let this class tear her down. That's not teaching. That's failing her. Mrs. Thompson's face flushed red, her mouth opening and closing without words. Maya didn't wait for an excuse. She turned to the students, her flight suit rustling as she moved, its patches glinting like badges of authority. And you, she said, her gaze pinning Tyler, Sophia, and Ethan in turn. You think it's funny to mock someone's truth? To make someone feel small because their story doesn't fit your little world? She held up the rocket model, her voice unwavering. Naomi told you who I am, and she was right. I'm Dr. Maya Williams, lead aerospace engineer at NASA. I build the rockets that take humanity to the stars, and my daughter is part of that legacy. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioner. Maya tapped her tablet, projecting a video onto the whiteboard. A real NASA launch, flames roaring as a rocket soared into the sky. The class gasped, eyes wide, as the ground shook with the sound of liftoff. That's my work, Maya said. That's what Naomi was trying to share with you. And you laughed. The weight of her words settled over the room like dust after an explosion. Tyler stared at his desk, his bravado gone. Sophia's hands fidgeted, her glittery nails catching the light. Ethan crumpled his latest doodle, shoving it under his book. Even Lily looked ashamed, her smirk long vanished. Maya walked to Naomi's side, resting a hand on her shoulder. Naomi, do you want to tell them anything else? She asked gently. Naomi took a shaky breath, stepping forward, her purple ribbons bouncing. I just wanted you to know my mom's amazing, she said, her voice stronger now. She works so hard and she teaches me I can do anything. I wasn't lying. I'd never lie about her. Her eyes met Tyler's, then Sophia's, unflinching. The room stayed silent, but it wasn't hostile anymore. It was reverent. Mrs. Thompson, her face pale, stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. Naomi, I'm so sorry. I was wrong, completely wrong. I should have listened, and I promise I'll do better. She turned to Maya. Dr. Williams, thank you for coming. I've learned something today. Maya nodded, but her focus stayed on the kids. One by one, they spoke up. Tyler stood, his voice small. I'm sorry, Naomi, I didn't know. Your mom's job is so cool. Sophia followed, twisting her bracelet. I'm really sorry, too. I shouldn't have said those things. Ethan mumbled an apology, and Lily added, I didn't mean to laugh. Your mom's like a hero. Other kids chimed in, their voices overlapping, each apology a step toward mending what they'd broken. Maya stayed a while longer, answering questions with a warmth that softened her earlier fire. Yes, she'd worked on Mars rovers. No, she hadn't flown to space yet, but she was training for a suborbital mission. She let Naomi hold the rocket model, and when Naomi explained its fins to the class, her voice was steady, proud. The kids listened, not just out of guilt, but with genuine awe, their eyes flicking to Maya's flight suit, its NASA logo a beacon of possibility. By the next day, everything had shifted. Mrs. Thompson started class with an apology to Naomi in front of everyone, promising to create a Truth Matters board where kids could share real stories without fear. Tyler brought a library book on space to show Naomi, asking shyly about rocket fuel. Sophia invited her to join their art table, where they drew planets together. Ethan stopped drawing cruel cartoons, instead sketching a rocket with Naomi's mom written on it. Lily shared her snacks at recess, saying, "I want to be an engineer too someday." The classroom wasn't perfect, kids still teased sometimes, but Naomi felt seen, not as a target, but as someone whose light couldn't be dimmed. Weeks later, Maya returned for a school-wide assembly, this time with a full-scale rocket model and a NASA colleague in tow. Naomi stood beside her, pointing out parts of the spacecraft, her voice ringing clear. The auditorium cheered, and Naomi's smile was brighter than the stage lights. She'd faced a room full of doubters and come out stronger, with a mother who'd fought for her and a class that had learned to listen. From then on, Naomi walked taller, her constellation dress a badge of pride. She wasn't just the girl with the NASA mom, she was Naomi, the dreamer who'd stood her ground. Her classmates didn't just like her, they admired her, asking about space, sharing her excitement for the stars. The lesson lingered. Words can wound, but truth and courage can heal. If this story stirred your heart or made you cheer for Naomi, share it with someone who needs a spark of hope. Drop a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe for more tales of grit and glory. Let's keep lifting each other up, one story at a time.